welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are going to invite you to a new exhibit at the Hampton History Museum about our pirate history. My guest is Alan Hoilman, curator. Welcome.
Thank you, Robin.
Hampton is becoming a little bit more known for pirates. I think it's thanks to the Blackbeard Festival.
We have our Blackbeard Festival, and of course we have our claim to Blackbeard. This is kind of where he stopped.
Yes, he stopped pretty dramatically
He did.
here. You want to recount that story just a little bit?
Well, the tale, and keep in mind, nearly everything that has to do with pirates is a tale. Rather than hard history, it's a tale. Virginia's governor sent an expedition. For one reason or another, possibly it was politically expedient for him to send an expedition to take on the dreaded pirate Blackbeard off the North Carolina coast, where he found him aground at Ocracoke and raided the Queen Anne's Revenge. And after a fierce battle, Blackbeard's crew was either captured or killed or fled, and Blackbeard himself was killed, beheaded, and his head brought back and stood on a post in the mouth of the Hampton River for we don't know how long exactly, until it went away.
You know, we think of pirates as barbaric, but that was a little barbaric there for us. I think the governor was trying to send a message.
Send a message. Piracy is not brooked nor wanted here.
Wow.
And this is what happens to pirates. As a matter of fact, recently uncovered document from a British naval officer said that 2 of his crewmen were also brought to Hampton, executed, and then their bodies hung beside his head in the mouth of the Hampton River until they went away.
It was a different time. How many years ago was that?
This was 1718, 300 years ago. It's 300 years since his death in battle.
And yet, pirates fascinate this society and this culture. Why is that?
Well, there's a romance to it. They are people who have no rules. They have a life in which they are completely under their own control. And we've got a popular culture that just engaged it through movies, starring Johnny Depp, telling this wonderful, if a bit fantastic tale of pirates and their lives. But we have this exhibit coming. It's going to help us examine just some of those things, what pirates were really like.
What were pirates really like?
Well, pirates were not ordinary people. They were typically ex-members of the Royal Navy who simply had had enough. Now, let me tell you, life in the Royal Navy was not easy either.
Life wasn't that easy.
Life nowhere was that easy, but if you were in the Royal Navy, life was harsh. And a lot of pirates were people who fled the Royal Navy and kind of bunched out on their own. So pirates were just these folks who made their way by preying on seafaring goods.
And sometimes they were paid to do it by another party. I mean, the privateers were sort of a for-hire kind of.
Exactly. Well, this exhibit is precisely about that. The title is Pirates, Privateers, and Buccaneers. Three terms we use interchangeably, but they are quite different. A pirate is an individual, a group of individuals, a company, if you will, that preyed on the seafaring goods of another, illegally, outside the law. They were thieves, by definition. Privateers were people who preyed on the seafaring goods of other people, nations, entities, but they just happened to have a letter from a king or a queen or a prince or a duke saying, we're at war with Spain, so I, the Prince of the Netherlands, say you have my mark of register here and you can do your worst, prey on Spain.
Sort of a navy for hire.
A navy for hire. They were private navies, privateers. And those groups flip-flopped a lot. They would be a pirate in one's eyes, a privateer in another's, and they might just change sides with whatever was most profitable and convenient. And buccaneers, a pirate or a privateer, either could be a buccaneer. A buccaneer is by definition a kind of a low-life lout that stole from the Spanish. That was kind of the definition of a buccaneer. So Francis Drake, a privateer, was a pirate to the Spanish, and a buccaneer to those who admired that he was preying on the Spanish. So
Interesting. And you know, Hampton was a very important port. And,
Exactly.
And all of those groups, I would assume, landed here at various times.
Hampton was the port of Virginia at the time.
We forget that.
Yeah, between Philadelphia and Charleston, there was Hampton, the port on the East Coast. And kind of at the most northern reach of where pirates were mostly doing their work, along the coast of the Carolinas and into the Caribbean. So like the most northern reach of the pirate trade was Hampton. So we have our logical connection to these fellows. And our exhibit will and you know, piracy began much earlier. I mean, we talk about we think of the golden age of piracy, the late 17th century, the early 18th century, when Blackbeard and his peers were active. Piracy goes back to the Mediterranean world, Greek and Roman pirates, and of course, our Marine Corps hymn talks about the shores of Tripoli. Well, we had frigates off the shores of Tripoli because Tripoli had pirates. And we were there to take care of pirates in the Mediterranean. And of course now, sail the Indian Ocean at your peril these days, because there are pirates along the east coast of Africa and the west coast of the Indies. So piracy has been there for millennia, and it appears to be, you know, not going away anytime soon.
Because it's very hard for governments or for anyone to control that much. I mean, the seas are vast.
It is.
And
It
lots of
absolutely
things.
is. And think of the people whose charge was to control piracy on the east coast of the colonies. The Royal Navy, the Dutch Navy, the Spanish Navy, the French navies. The four most powerful naval forces in the world still couldn't just snuff it out.
Interesting. So you guys are going to tell this story
We are.
about those days and what Hampton was like for pirates.
The exhibit itself is coming from the South Carolina State Museum. It's a traveling exhibit,
Okay.
so we're borrowing it from the South Carolina State Museum, where it was developed in concert with the North Carolina Maritime Museum, which is the repository for the Queen Anne's Revenge, which was the flagship that Blackbeard was on when our expedition left Hampton to track him down and bring him back here. So it is connected to us. It's very well done and very expert. It actually might shatter a few myths, kind of what we do in history. And
Doesn't change the tales.
No,
it
no.
just provides a little
believe
context.
there's truth and there's myth, and whichever works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been working with the North Carolina Maritime Museum, whose curator of underwater archaeology has visited us several times to deliver lectures. And we're going to borrow some artifacts that were recovered from the Queen Anne's Revenge to augment the exhibit. So, and there'll be a legacy, because we're going to do this exhibit. It'll open on May 12th, and will be open for our Blackbeard Festival, of course, through the summer, and then it will close on September 3rd. But those artifacts that we borrow from the North Carolina Maritime Museum may just stay with us.
Ooh.
They've agreed to lend at least some of those on long term so we can flesh out our Blackbeard story.
That is interesting. Would it be fair to say that Hampton did get some benefits from pirates in terms of being a port and spending and commerce?
Well, certainly the Royal Navy found Hampton to be its best base to go after the pirates. And if you wanted a safe harbor between Charleston and New York, or Charleston and Philadelphia, Hampton was reasonably safe. And of course, Hampton was the port of Virginia, so the trade coming in and out. And keep in mind that the pirates, this myth that the pirates wanted these treasure chests that they could bury on a deserted island, that's a nice fantasy to think you can go find a treasure. What they were really doing was they were taking goods off of ships full of goods so that they could sell those goods for cash. So I don't have.
Which I don't think they buried
I don't
very
have
often
bills of
because they
lading.
needed
No,
it.
they didn't want. Of course they would take silver and
Right.
treasure of that nature. But what they most often got was tobacco and naval stores and stuff like that were being moved along the east coast of the colonies, and they had to sell those to make money. So I have no bills of lading, but I bet you a lot of those came to the customs house at the Port of Virginia in Hampton.
Interesting. So our history is very entwined with these folks, and we will learn more about it this summer
Absolutely.
at the Hampton History Museum. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you will take your whole family to this exhibit, because shattering the myths but yet continuing to enjoy the myths is part of our culture, and pirates, love them or hate them, are very tied to our history here in Hampton and in the region. Thanks for watching.